really happy to finally meet someone that I've been corresponding with for, I guess, many, many years, at least over like maybe 10. It's been a long time, but
It's at least
welcome,
10,
Chris.
yes.
Yes, hello, Chris Handa, who I met originally through we call the Green Space or the Magic Cafe for people who are into theatrical magic. And we were both in the realm, I guess, of bizarre theatrical magic and illusions. Um, and with a little bit of a gang, we all started like talking a lot. But also, unlike some of us, you're also a professional. Well, maybe you'll have a better term. I call you like a haunter, someone who builds like huge haunted house attractions and as well, which I find very fascinating. And I think it's an art form. And I guess I don't. We'll also talk about things like what's that? Is it Modern Family? You ever see the Modern Family Halloween episodes where they go all out? I mean, it's a thing. And so I'm just happy to kind of talk with you. So hello, Chris.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you for having me on. Haunter is fine. It's a good generic catch-all. The stuff I do for the attraction and with the attraction is far beyond magic. I act in the haunt. I work in the off-season administration. I am compliance. I work with the state to make sure that we've got all of our insurance and all of our paperwork in. I'm an inspector. I do a whole realm of things for haunting. Most people don't want to talk about that stuff, so that's the boring stuff. They want to
Really?
talk about building cool stuff and who did you make jump? That's really what they want to know.
To me, it's all interesting because again, it's like saying if to really actually do this, and this is the thing about I consider it an art. To do art, you still gotta work hard at it and have to pay your dues and make sure things are done well and to do it safely and all that. Otherwise, you can't do it. And to actually do it to the scale you do, it is an interesting thing about, I'm sure, your experiences of having to go through all those processes as well.
It is. It is. It's we're Halloween 365 here for two reasons. Yeah, the first reason because if you're truly are doing a good show, you want to be an innovative. You want to keep working to make it different. You want to work on improving the things that didn't necessarily work last year. Keep up to date on uh, general upkeep and safety and stuff like that. Then the other part of it is we do four different shows a year. October, we run all of October, and that's the Halloween seasonal show. We do two shows in December. We call that Cryptmas.
Yeah.
And then we have in March, we have St. Patrick's Day, and there's a weekend that we're open there. And then most recently for our summer shows, we've done a number of them. We started doing Halfway to Halloween. We did a Midsummer Night's Dream, or Midsummer Nightmare, it should be. We
Okay.
did a
Yeah.
Midsummer Nightmare, a couple of variations on the Shakespearean uh, plays on words with that. And the current incarnation is Summerween. So we just finished our Summerween show 2 weeks ago.
Nice. So, by the way, Castle Blood, is that the, because you might as well tell everyone a little bit too about what is it called? Where are you? Where can people actually kind of take in some of this stuff?
Castle Blood is in Menneson, Pennsylvania. We are located about 45 minutes south of Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are in a 100-plus-year-old funeral home.
Hmm.
The backstory of Castle Blood is that a vampire family, actually two vampire families, made a deal with a dragon to save a village way back in the old country. And these vampire clans came together, and they have had to move several times for various reasons. And they went from the old country to Scotland, and then over to the New World, and then we've had to move several times in the New World. Of course, that dovetails with our real life moves of the attraction. But it's a wayward home. We're a home for wayward creatures.
Okay.
All are welcome under our roof because monsters are misunderstood in this world. So this is where you'll find misunderstood monsters.
Sounds good.
No, if you take that as your backstory for
Mm.
literally everything you do, you'll see how it dovetails into a lot of the stuff you and I have talked about.
Well, yeah, because it gives you a lot of openings for like adding all sorts of different types of elements, mythologies, creatures, and so on. Because it's open to the world for a shelter. That's cool for misunderstood monsters. That's neat. And when did you first start this?
I first started at Castle Blood in 1998.
Oh, so a
The
long
attraction
time.
goes back to 1993. And happenstance, I went to see Castle Blood as a mortal, as we call it. Uh, the cast members are denizens. The people that come through are mortals, typically. And I went through as a mortal. I fell in love with it. They use traditional magic effects. The first room we went in, the mean nasty vampire told us we were supposed to get beads of protection, but she wasn't going to give them to us. Then she picked up a jewelry box that was empty and said, "Well, I did promise you," and opened it up, and it was full of beads and gave us our beads of protection. But
Hmm.
then she told us they were the wrong beads because she's not that nice of a vampire. The next room we went into, there was a fortune teller, and the fortune teller told us she didn't see things go well because a group had already broken their beads. So we had to help restore the beads. In the next room, we were in uh, a sinister chapel, for lack of a better term, and the sinister minister changed them to the correct color. And then we went onto a witch's coven room, and they threw magic balls of light across the room to add the last ingredient in their cauldron. I stuck my hand into a box through an actively moving blade to grab a coin. It was all kinds of stuff like that. But these were things that I hadn't seen in a traditional haunted house. Okay, the blade thing does happen, but
Yeah.
beyond that, all was these are things out of a magic show, and I'm seeing them in a haunted house.
So if I understand it right, so your Castle Blood comes after someone else was doing a Castle Blood that you kind of inspired or you absorbed or you took over?
I am our owner, Ricky Dick, is still the owner founder, uh, chief cook and bottle washer, everything.
I see.
So I am a key part of that as far as doing the magic. But I wasn't even the first person to do the magic, as I just all that stuff existed before me. There was a magic consultant before me, everything like that. So, but I've been doing this since 1998.
And how old are you when you first went to Castle Blood then?
Oh, 27.
Okay. So young man, we're like, wow, okay. I just if I go back in time, we psychiatrists always like to go back in time. Like, have you always been into this stuff, even going all the way back?
Oh, yes, yes. Ironically,
Yeah.
that year I got a bunch of magician friends, and I wanted to put together a 4-room attraction that you went in and you spent maybe 10 minutes in each room, and each person did a presentation, and there was a build. And I couldn't quite communicate, and it didn't quite get the way to communicate the idea to the other people that I was talking to.
Mm.
And then, some of them ended up getting gigs and things like that. So then Castle Blood came along, and there was this other thing here in Western Pennsylvania called the Haunted Chamber. A gentleman named Rick Ma. And this was before Rick wrote the Book of Haunted Magic. And his Haunted Chamber was based upon a similar idea that you spent time in 3 or 4 rooms and weird stuff happened to you. And he used primarily traditional mentalism effects.
Hmm.
So that's where that all came from. And then if you go further back into my childhood, I had crazy cousins that used to dress up as monsters and tell stories to me as the monsters and showed me magic tricks, and we played pranks on the relatives and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Did you get any? I know as a kid myself, I think I came across, I think it was Dunninger's Houdini book or whatever. It had some cool spooky stuff in it. And I always liked that.
Mhm.
Well, for me, and I don't know about you, the whole thing about magic. And again, I know in the Magic Cafe they call it the bizarre magic, and some people no, that's the true magic. It's like I don't know what your thoughts are on this topic, like where people would kind of really make it into kind of really supernatural, spooky feel. Like, is this really magic or is it whoa? Versus pick a card. Look, I found your card. And I said, no, this is neat. I like the whole story and narrative elements to this stuff. So that's what got me hooked as a kid. I don't know what got you hooked into all this when you were young. Or maybe I don't know.
I didn't know what that was when I was that young. I was watching David Copperfield and Doug
Mm,
Henning. My first magic book was Magic Tricks, Silly Stunts from Scholastic Books.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that came alongside of Movie Monsters, which a lot of people cut their teeth on the Scholastic Movie Monsters book.
Oh yeah.
That basically gave you 1 or 2 page descriptions of all the old Universal and Godzilla movies and things like that. So it was those things. The paranormal fascinated me. To be honest, it scared me.
Hmm.
I would read books on parapsychology and ghost stories. And I learned about The Exorcist when I was in second grade.
Yeah, yeah.
Not the movie, the real story about the 14-year-old boy.
That's based
Things like
on.
that. And I couldn't sleep at night. I drove my parents nuts because I was up in my bed, not being able to sleep because I just read something scary. And then I learned that with magic, there was this interesting middle ground that I was able to control some of that.
Hmm.
Because if you are putting together the scene with the fortune teller and you're putting together the scene with the vampire and the big spider, coming out of the web, that was always one of my favorite with the giant spider movies. Uh, you've got control over it. They're not going to jump at you, and they're not going to ruin your life. They're not going to kill you. And that's I think where I started is when we started making haunted houses when we were kids, and that kind of helped break some of my fear.
That's interesting. Yeah, because they often say too, like a lot of the films and horrors and the things like horror films and these haunts, it's a way to almost, I don't know if it's inoculate you, but you get used to it. So like I am taking control about the real horrors of the world. I have some control over it with all of these things. But also again, this is the curse of being a magician type, right? Is you start to learn all the secrets. So you can't get the but sometimes we don't want the we want the I want to know how it's done, but I can appreciate the art of how it's done, even I can't get the surprise anymore. Although I still get surprised once in a while from really
But
good
I think
events.
that's all still there for you if you look.
Yeah.
It really is. The first 2 chapters of Tarbell talk about the whole history and Zoroastrianism and everything like that.
Hmm.
First discovered J. Scott Barry, a little bit of his esoteric side. That was a little bit later. That was high school, early college, and that was when I discovered what bizarre magic was and the power of mentalism and things like that. All the while, uh, we'll be honest, not a huge fan of slasher films, but
Yeah.
love suspense films. Absolutely love suspense films, and it's a melding of all that. It really is. For me, it wasn't the ritual, it wasn't the robes, and let's try to do something to make it look real or anything like that. And there is definitely a place for that. For me, it's always a little bit tongue in cheek, and it's a lot of theater. And it's you don't walk up to a haunted house going, "This is real. I'm never getting out."
Right.
You don't walk into the theater every night thinking, "Oh, that Jean Valjean guy has had a really rough life, and everyone around him is now dead." They all get up the next night to do a show.
Well, exactly. You would hope people would come in and take it in the spirit it's meant. But also, again, I think what you're also saying, and this is some other people I've talked to, and it's across a lot of fields, that balance between a little bit of humor, a little bit of horror, to kind of like it brings out the best. Like the umami, like a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, it's like you're mixing it to the right things so people get that kind of oomph, hills and valleys, and so on. Because it
Oh,
sounds like,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And so you were, so tell me more about your career then. Like, this is like, I don't know if it's your full-time job doing all this or you do other things. Like, this is like the hobby that's really your secret passion of why you love doing stuff, or you have other things you do, or,
I could say that I'm a pro because I can and have made money at doing it. I'm
okay.
not a full time pro.
Mm,
I don't know that I will ever be at this point in my life. I still have some hopes and dreams in that area that someone's going to call and say, "Hey, we want you to consult, but leave your day job and do everything else." But
yeah.
this is definitely the passion. This is definitely what when people ask me about career days, they never ask me about being a professional fundraiser or a therapist or a bartender. They wanted the guy that did magic.
Hmm.
They wanted to talk to the magician.
Yet I know that's what's that old joke? Oh, what's the difference between a pizza and a magician? The pizza can feed a family of
Each can feed a
four.
family of four.
Yeah, but yeah, with yeah, but again, it's the love of this stuff. It is quite exciting and fun. I guess that's what I ask you next is like when you got hired on, I guess, said, okay, do stuff. What was your like, how do you go about even thinking about creating these things, making magic routines? Like, what's your process or like, you know how you even said like even early on you're trying to get that four-room experience. You have like a way of doing stuff. I'm just curious how you go about that.
So it started out, and in the book that I wrote, it kind of does take
Oh,
the
and give the
reader
title of
through
your
that.
book to everybody, and I'll flash it up
Oh
here
yes,
after.
Talismans and Thaumaturgy: Stories of Sorcery at Castle Blood.
There you go. Okay.
It starts the way that I wrote the book takes you through that. I started off as a line entertainer, and the reason why Ricky brought me on to be a line entertainer is that we had a wriggling clown, we had a professional clown that was always teaching at conventions. He was a costumer himself and a clown. We had other people that had other skills, juggling and different things like that. They already had their place in the haunt. If he pulled them out to do line entertainment, then they have to put a hole somewhere else. So, okay, hey, new guy, can you do line entertainment for me and work out front? And that's how I started. Very quickly,
Well, what did you do out
Ricky
there? Were
learned
you
that I
doing
had,
magic or what did you do out in the line?
yeah, it was magic. It was
Hmm.
uh, not card tricks, but it was haunted key and pendulum work and
Oh yeah.
some stuff that would usually happen in their hand or right in front of them. Did do some stuff with tarot cards and
Mhm.
a few other things. I would give them a bloody hand, give them my own bloody handprint so they could take it in and show everybody that they bet scry and things like that.
That was your
So
character's name, Scry.
Professor Scry, yes.
Hmm.
So I did that very very early on. Ricky realized that I had other skills as far as organizational skills, things like that, and I started helping out with the gift shop and selling roses and glow necklaces in the line. And
Hmm.
since my character by nature was approachable, I was the one that kind of became uh, the walking information kiosk out there. That people would come to me to find out where the bathroom was and everything like that. And I did that for a little bit. It wasn't until a few years later when we had some other people go away that I started. I had been working in the off season, and we'd started to talk about things that we should do in the scenes. And well, hey, you're a magician. We used to do this. What do you think about this? We want to spice up our Egyptian scene. What would a fortune teller really do? Stuff like that. And and then my stuff ended up being worked in, and it all has a purpose. Everything has to have a purpose, whether I'm given a cool prop or I find a cool prop and we can write a script around it, or it's okay, in this room, I need them to get a card that has these three names on it, but I don't want to just give it to them. I need to find a way to make the writing appear or make them pick it out of a selection of 100 names or something like that.
And so, like they say, the Egyptian room, or you're doing the three. Like, where are you drawing it from? Is this like from horror stories, movies, like, or like, how, like, where is your creative stuff all flowing in from? Where do you gather it up to kind of like
I am.
turn
We
it
have a
out?
couple of people that we use. We serve as the dramaturgs, basically. Which, had I known when I was much younger and trying to pursue an education in theater what dramaturgy was, I probably would have gone that way.
Can you
We do
enlighten
the
us, me, and the viewers? What is that all about?
that's the researcher. That's the one that does the historical research. So when we're looking at something, it's the same as theater. You look at two places. You look in the industry, and then you look in culture. So we're looking at movies, we're looking at folklore, we're looking at superstition,
Mhm.
We're looking at real world events, trying to make sure that, when we're doing that, we're not getting way too close. And then on the other side, we're looking at, okay, what have these other haunted attractions done? And is there something close? Is there something that somebody that was just at the haunt down the road is going to see, and they're going to either relate to us or go, well, no, well, they said that over there, and you're not saying the same thing. So it's, it's very much the same way. It's the bookworm version of everything, for lack of a better term. Google is my friend.
But also, tell me if I'm wrong, but what you're describing is also like a team spirit thing. It's not like one person just says do that. It sounds like you're saying is someone comes up with some information or someone finds a prop and you all sit down and start kind of like kicking it around like a writer's room about whether you're writing comedy or writing horror. It's like you all kind of,
Yeah,
if I got
outside
it
of that, we're
right.
never in the room. We're never in the same room at the same time. That's absolutely how it works. We
Mhm.
we email back and forth. We text back and forth. We have right now we have an expert on Celtic folklore.
Hmm.
Everything we do goes through and by her, to work on proper pronunciation, to work on the, okay, this is really a Celtic myth. Okay, this we're just really making stuff up. And that, I think that's really made our show stronger, from that point of view, because we've been able to work the Celtic angle a lot in construction of our props, and some of the scripting that we've been able to do. And you're
What sort of things
100%
have
right.
you?
I did not say I on that. We write the scripts collectively.
Yeah, but what sort of things have you been building Celtic style?
I'm
Or
sorry, ask that again, Bruce.
oh, what you were saying about the Celtic? What do you guys have been building then? Like, I got two questions. One was that. Do you want me to ask two at
Okay.
once or just one at a time?
Let's do one at a time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like, what have you been building and getting the pronunciations right and all that?
Well, our the person in real life works in a rock shop and a crystal shop, and is very
Mhm.
into Ren fairs. Her character is Madame Nightshade, and she is a an elvish type character, a darkling in Castle Blood folklore. She is one of the many types of darklings that we have, and she is usually the one that works in what we call, for working purposes, the trophy room. That we, to the public, it's the collection of crypto spookology. And a good example is, we had a shield, a wooden shield that had runes painted on it. And her job in the story, the backstory, was that she was in the process of restoring it. So there were all these notes stapled and tacked to the shield as to what rune and what symbol she thought it was. And what they had to do is find the right runes in the right order to basically to cast a spell. And they had to touch each rune with a sword. And then that caused one of the other artifacts right next to it to start to talk, and gave them their next clue.
We're talking
Another
artifact.
thing that I'm sorry.
Oh, it's gonna. I got it. Well, as you talk, I'm going to ask, what do you mean though? Talking artifact? But you can tell me more about it. How it
In
talks.
this case, it was, we have a shrunken head in the trophy room
Okay.
that's kind of our guardian. We call him the little guy,
Okay.
and he will sometimes heckle, he will sometimes help. But the little guy gave the person, the actor working the room, a little bit of grief, and then would help the people once they got that code. Another good example is that they were trying to find uh, a Celtic charm, and they couldn't find it. They found a plastic eyeball. So the plastic eyeball was given to Nightshade, and Nightshade would then put it on a ritual altar with Celtic symbols all around it, and put it in, and the group transformed it into a stone skull that was their talisman. That was the thing that had the power that they needed.
So one thing I was going to ask too, then, as you're saying this, it was more about the depth of trying to get everything accurate and so on versus just making it up. It just reminds me of again about even though there's a bit of humor, you take like I guess all the characters stay in character, be taking it 100% seriously. There's no breaking of character. Like they always I always think about the Batman campy TV show where the reason it works is it's funny, but it's because they take it all deadly seriously and everyone in it acts as if this is like life and death and real. Um, so I was just going to ask about that too. The way you were describing it's putting all that effort into making the realism.
Our actors rarely, if never, break character. It is always an in character thing,
Mhm.
and some are more menacing than others. Some are more exasperated than others that they have to deal with all these mortals traipsing through their domain. So each one has a personality, and it's that's where the character comes through is each individual character's personality. And a lot of us have been doing our characters for 10 years or more. I mean, I have never changed my character. My character is the same character from the okay. To be fair, the second year, my first year, the character kind of sucked, but from the second year on, Professor Scry was there, and I've built on him for 28 years. And it's a matter of I think it was Michael Caine that said, or somebody had asked him about doing a Muppet Christmas Carol,
Mhm.
and the advice given to him was, remember, these are all Muppets. Don't take this seriously. So he went and played it dead 100% serious and let all the goofiness happen around him. And he played it as he felt he should play Scrooge. And I don't know, my opinion is Muppet Christmas Carol is one of the best Christmas Carol adaptations, but
Yeah.
your mileage may vary on that. So, but we take a similar tack to that. It's you do what you do, but you do in character. And I
Absolutely.
see you have a question, so I'll stop there for a second.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like again, it's Robert Houdin who said, "What the magician is a performer acting like a magician." And I guess that goes with all this too. It's like, you take on the roles and then you stick with it and then it starts to work. But again, it sounds like you guys also have this camaraderie and understanding that it's all very interactive and very, very cool. And I guess when it comes to you being asked for your special area, which is the magician, technical magician, or what is it? Do you have a title? Technical magic man?
Okay, well, operations manager and magic director
Oh,
are
magic
my
director.
actual
Yeah.
titles. Yes,
So,
Professor Scry has a different title though.
oh
We'll get into
yeah.
that in a minute.
Oh,
My character is the occult cultural anthropologist.
right. But he's in
So
he's in the in that world. When you're stepping outside behind the scenes, you take on this other dimension. So I was just asked like when
yes,
someone says, "Okay, we found this like little baby or I don't know a kid's sarcophagus. Can you do something with it?" What goes through your mind? Like, okay, here's a baby sarcophagus of King Baby Tut or whatever. What goes on in your mind?
okay, as myself, that's looking and going, okay, what scene is this going to fit in? And, what are we going to do with this? By the way, I do have a baby sarcophagus in one of the scenes, so that's very, very funny.
Well, there you go.
Uh,
Who doesn't have one of those? Okay.
it's so far it's just been display.
Mhm.
Okay, Professor Scry would look at it, and this is science to Professor Scry. So if this is said to be cursed, it would be doing research on it to figure out what the nature of the curse is, what the practical ramifications of the curse are. What does this curse affect? Are there ways to replicate it? All kinds of questions that you would ask if you were doing a science experiment.
Ah,
And that happens in two places. That happens in the area where they do the research, and that happens in the area where they make stuff blow up. In the lab.
very
So
cool.
those are the two areas where I primarily do writing of magic effects.
That's neat. Now, I mean, the only reason I came up with the mummy sarcophagus is when you're talking about the mummy room and all that. And I had this flash of this old movie from the 70s called Cruise into Terror. I never saw it. It's really one of those B almost C movies where they're on a cruise ship where supposedly underwater is the last resting place of this lost pharaoh, of this little baby pharaoh who turns out to be the Antichrist. It was a really, really, really bizarre film, but it was lots of fun. Highly recommend it for you.
I'm gonna look that one up. Okay.
But
But it would be, it's funny because again, it's an interesting blending of the real and the not real with that. When I got the baby sarcophagus, the very first thing I did was looked at it, and I called. I didn't call. I emailed her, uh, a prop designer that just does this stuff for fun, and she had done a devil baby and put it on Etsy, and I'm like, I want the devil baby,
Uh,
and it fit perfectly in the coffin, and that I toured with it for a little bit as part of my museum of oddities.
oh, nice.
And then we had like I said, the sarcophagus has been in 2 rooms, 3 rooms here, usually closed. Sometimes we put something in it, just because it's a little bit more on the creepy side. When you're talking about children and you're talking about pets and things like that,
Yeah, people can get upset.
you're dancing on some lines there.
Even I don't know if you ever had props mailed to you. Perhaps you have, because I also love collecting things. Well, because bizarre magic and illusions. So I have my mummies and all that. But sometimes I remember getting stopped or called by customs going, "What is this?" No, it's not a real head. It isn't. It's like, Dan from Lebanon Circle, and anyways, he makes really good
Yes.
props. But I mean, it's like, whoa, whoa. It's like, no, it's not real. I swear it's not real. None of this is real. I don't know if you ever
I
run into
yeah
anything like that where people go,
I think the best stories that of Dan's are the ones he hasn't told yet, because his stories about encounters in the real world with people are amazing.
yeah,
Ours are a little bit more mundane. Our Ricky uh, is he's actually married to a Toronto native, or an Ontario native, I should say,
hmm.
but from the Greater Toronto area, and they go back and forth to Canada quite a bit in the hearse. And he's always got a coffin or some skeletons or something in there, and the
Customs
conversations with
must be
customs
fun.
are very, very interesting. But he's never had that kind of a problem. They've never actually gone looking for real bodies.
I guess it's so over the top. It's like they can't believe it, and yet I guess that would be one of the greatest ways to smuggle stuff through the secret coffin underneath the coffin, like Han Solo would have in the Millennium Falcon or something. Like there you go. But yeah, that's hilarious. The fun things people must run into with this. Um, so in your own home, when you're out of there, do you have your own office too, full of or a play
Yes.
space? Yes.
Oh, yes, yes. And it's shrunken heads and skeletons and
Yeah.
Fiji mermaids. I
Yeah.
have I have an albino cobra attacking a mongoose. That's probably my favorite taxidermy.
That's pretty
I've
cool.
seen several versions of this one. The cobra's in an attack position wrapped around the mongoose, and it's one of the few that my wife's not squeamish, because she acts on the haunt too, as does my daughter. But a lot of the stuff is like, yeah, that's ugly. No, no, in your room.
Yeah. Oh
The
yeah. That's
cobra and the
like
mongoose is one of those things that
our wives are going, yeah, you may have this room and we get the rest of the house. I said, that's good by me.
yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine with that. Yeah. No, I have like certain props too, like a mummy that the kids didn't like at first. So I put a coal shack straw hat on it and suddenly they liked them. I don't know. The things we have. But
Because you made it look silly.
yeah, just a little bit. He's a little more relatable mummy. But yeah. So that's cool. So you've been collecting for a while, I guess. You run out of
Yes,
space?
yes.
Or there's always space for another shrunken head.
Space is an issue.
Yeah,
Space is a real issue.
yeah,
It's a matter that I've gotten in my life with a lot of things that I collect or used to collect. That it's like, okay, we got no room to put it, and now I have to decide that.
yeah. I know that
Boxes.
feeling.
Magicians love boxes. We all have
It's
that
true.
disease about, wow, that's a cool box. I could do something with that.
It's true. My wife always comments on that too. Is going, you got enough boxes. The box is the symbol of mystery. What's inside it? It's like yeah. It's interesting how common, I guess, these sorts of issues occur across the field. But that's neat. Well, I was going to ask too then, because you have so much and so many things you've made. Do you have some of your favorite creations? Like if you said like these are the things I'm most proud of, and this is why, like cool things you made, or cool rooms, or a cool effect. Like, do you have any like happiest or favorites?
I do. I do. One of the ones actually is because of the method and what we did with it that year. The effect where we turned the eyeball into the stone skull.
Hmm.
Uh, I take that back. It was a stone heart. I've been doing this for so long. It's 1 year was a stone
Contagious.
coffin they got, but no, it was a stone heart. I apologize. That's one of my favorite because we took a very basic children's magic trick, and in 2 rooms, instead of doing it all in front of them at once, in 2 rooms they got the first half of it using the same props that somebody would use at a children's magic show, except they're painted up and they look different. And then we built a version of the other tube type object that usually has 3 balls in it, if that helps.
Yeah.
And
We won't give no
we
secrets
use
out.
that as our. I'm sorry.
No secrets giving out today. No, no, no
Okay.
secrets. Yes. No, no
So
worries.
yeah, basically, I could say it's for those that know what a stratosphere is, it's
Yeah.
our version of stratosphere, but it looks nothing like a stratosphere. I took it to the East Coast Spirit Sessions, and I asked people what the basis of this was. Nobody got it. So now it's a stratosphere. It's exactly the way a stratosphere works, and it's almost exactly how we did it, up to and including the special box that makes something appear and disappear.
But that's what I love about magic too, is what you're describing is you take a real basic effect, but you put a narrative and a setting and you spin it all around and you add like a different look to it. And suddenly no one understands what it is anymore, even though it's
Mm-hmm.
like a fundamental principle of magic sometimes, or that is cool.
Another is we
Mhm.
have a mystery prop that I got, and the provenance of it has even gotten more interesting. I found out it's a it looks like a chalice, old beat up copper chalice. It can make water vanish. It can make water appear. It can make water change color. And I got this from a magician friend who, when he finally told me the story of how he got it, he has no idea who made it or anything like that.
That's cool.
But we added something to it. We added the ability for the thing to also turn liquid into solid.
Mm.
So we made a witch's brew, and again, this is of my favorite things. We made a witch's brew in this chalice, shook it, dumped it into the hands of one of the mortals, and they got to carry this colloidal thing of goo that was originally in a chalice as with all this liquid. So we did a liquid to solid, and that's probably one of my favorite, and I'm very proud of the thinking and the work that went into it, and the also the acting that went into it when the it got turned over to our characters.
Mhm. Which goes back to some of the other things too about presentation versus the method versus so on. Was it Ascanio? It always says like 90% is presentation, 10% method, but that 10% of method has to work really well. You can't just say it's all presentation. But yeah, that sounds like what you're saying is like they get wowed.
Oh,
It's working smooth, and then that presentational job just knocks it into the stratosphere.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. They it still needs to do something. It still needs to
Mhm.
it needs to advance the story, but it also needs to work. Because if it does, if it doesn't work and it's not advancing the story, we're having a real problem.
That makes sense. And any others? I think would you have one more, or those are your two fave?
Yeah, and I'll we for Summerween, um, we decided 1 year to do cryptids,
Yeah.
local mythology, and there is we were on the Monongahela River, which has its own cryptid, and I only recently learned about this, but it's a
Right.
river monster.
Cool.
It's a basically it's either a one-headed or a two-headed giant alligator snapping turtle.
Hmm.
Uh, the one that
Does it have
we
a name?
created, I'm sorry,
Does it have a name?
it does, and I always forget its name.
Okay, I'll
And the
look it up
reason why
later.
I forget its name is funny. When we created it, we didn't know it had. It's an indigenous cultural name. It's
Hmm.
that that goes back that far. Um, we called it Manesi because we're in the town of Monessen, and we're on Monongahela River. So Monessie was the name of it. And I always look at it. It's the generically known as the Monongahela River monster. And if you look it up, you'd be able to get the
Okay.
indigenous name for it too. So anyway, we had a story about Monessie, and to demonstrate it, we explained how the three main cities that are along the Monongahela River here, Monessen being one of them, make a triangle that goes mostly over the river. So we built a triangle device, and we used stones to show how when you move the stones around, you could actually, without removing them, you would make one disappear. And then when that stone disappeared, it reappeared in an apport tube that I write about this in the book as far as what it is and everything like that.
Mhm.
But it reappeared. It was sitting right in front of them the whole time. They could see it was empty. They lifted it up and dumped the stone out, and it was there. And I'm very proud of the way it looked. I'm very proud of the professional way it was. And the Monongahela River monster is something that I've just kind of latched on to as well, in terms of hey, we actually did something that was relevant to our culture here, and we didn't even know it at the time. So that's one of my favorites.
Because as you were saying earlier, it's like bringing the culture, the history, the practicality, the theatricality, all mixes together into something wonderful. That's really cool. And so one of the things too that just my mouth shifted it slightly. And again, it's whatever you want to talk about here, or maybe it doesn't apply at all. But sometimes I wonder too about, how people use their arts or how why they got into the arts and so on, related to dealing with stresses of the world or mental health and so on. Because I always feel like creativity in the arts seem to have some association sometimes with this, where people will sometimes use it to cope with stress, deal with stress, and you even kind of mentioned too about the fears you used to have about why you got into it because it kind of mastered some of the fears. Some people get inspired by things, and some people go, "Oh, a friend had this and it inspired me." So I don't know if you have any comments or thoughts on any associations with that.
Yeah, there's actually two things, and the first is something I don't know that you and I have talked much about, and that's by profession. I was in behavioral health for years,
Hmm.
and I'm by education. I went into teaching, and I from day one I had wanted to do something different in terms of teaching. And my master's thesis actually is written on using magic as an educational tool.
Hmm.
And that is something that I carried into student teaching. I was a camp counselor and program director. I always did magic as a part of the program. I would teach magic as a part of some of the camp programs, stuff like that. The thesis. I'm sure if I look back on it and read it now, I would cringe at because I every time I look at something that I wrote before, I went ugh. But at the time, I was very proud because a lot of work went into it. I did it as a case study instead of empirical, and I managed to get that past a research university that doesn't necessarily cater to that a lot. But
Mhm.
they waived my thesis defense on that, and it was a case study of 9 people who used magic as a teaching or therapeutic tool, and that went from teaching magic using magic as an object lesson to hand therapy for blue collar workers that had injured their hands in industrial accidents, people that use magic to teach as a sales tool. It was very different group of people that I got to interview, and I really enjoyed doing that. So carrying that all in, carrying it in, magic in when I was doing one-on-one therapy, I would always, look to that if there was a way for me to incorporate it without shoehorning it. So
That's
that yeah, that's the one thing is as a career on that other side, I've always tried to bring magic in.
yeah. I was gonna,
On the other half, uh, I had a friend at one point that made a comment about haunters in general, and that was that this friend felt that if we didn't have what we have for haunters to express themselves, in terms of the events that we do, the things that we host for the public, everything like that, there would be a lot of people that would be in more serious mental health uh, situations, quite possibly in jail, because this gives people who have an outlet for some of the darker things, a more healthy way to express it, a more healthy way to get something out that they won't go into a therapy room to talk about, a way that is not a harmful way, a way that is something that's a little bit different. And I could say that personally, um, this, particularly with COVID was when it really hit me. But the writing that I was doing, the writing I did for the Carcosa project, was something that got me through a time when my creativity on the other side, on the magic side for the haunt, was it was a very regular, almost had become an assembly line type thing. And we had a lot going on. We weren't sure what direction we were going as an attraction or anything like that, because we were changing locations, and there was just a whole lot of stress going on, and being able to write and just be creative and step out, and okay, now I no longer have this box that I'm working in. That the Carcosa really helped me with that. And then when I got to COVID and I was having writer's block with other things, and I was trying to do something to be productive, just like a lot of other people, when I was able to pick up the things that I wrote and look back at them, and look back at the things that other people wrote for the project, and remember the camaraderie we had working on it, talking back and forth, and all the sharing, and oh yeah, that's the reason why Jim asked me to write for his book, and all kinds of stuff like that. It gave me a lot of it gave me a very positive boost to finish what I was doing, and that's how I was able to get the all of the writing portion of the book out of the way for the final time there. So that's, yeah, I think mental health is a huge aspect of performance art in any form, whether it's writing, performance, uh, visual arts, whatever.
Well, thanks for sharing all that. And I don't think we did speak about your background in that thesis and so on. Again, because again, I guess sorry, we're kindred spirits. I mean, I've always used magic and illusions and so on in my educational things. I'm a teacher and educator as well. And I got papers on that too about how you use magic and all that. It was more teaching about mental health specifically, and using magic to almost replicate what it'd feel like to have your thoughts read and stuff using magic so people can get a feel of that. So it's really cool to hear what you were doing and like the course of what, and I guess you still do. And for those who might not go, what are they talking about? The Carcosa collection. So this was something I started way back, I don't know, years ago for a while, where I just got people of our fellows in the magical world saying, hey, here's a contest. I got a topic and it's some interesting things. Everybody submit something and we'll all play together. And then I would put into a little book and send it out to everybody who was part of it. And yeah, but I did think, again, something you said is important. Even when you're doing something you love, if you're doing it so much that it starts to become rote and routine and horrifying, because you can do anything too much, even the stuff you love. You got to take a kind of sideways step back. I mean, sometimes when I'm working on a book or whatever else, and it's like, I'll notice I'm dodging everything because I can't stand it anymore. It's like what you were saying. It's like you need something to kind of like a little bit sideways lateral thinking, and having the camaraderie to do it, I think, which is what you were saying earlier, is extremely important too. It sounded like it said like it led to getting to work with other people too into their books and activities. So yeah.
Well, it just look at, again, looking back on that, some of the people that I talk to more regularly now, and uh, Ron Dayton in particular. Ron Dayton was one of those people that when we were in the listservs, and all the joking back and forth and everything that was going on back then is one thing. When you're having private emails with somebody, and this is somebody you admire because you've got two hardback books sitting right next to you, literally, that they wrote, and they're writing you and they're talking to you about your writing and how um, the impression that they're getting of it, how it's affecting them. That it changed a lot, and you know, learning from Ron, from his poetry submissions and things like that has been very important to me.
Hmm.
Jim Magus, finally got to meet Jim Magus in person this past year, and I've written for several of Jim's compilations, and talking to him about his work with haunted houses. He does ghost walks now, but he's like, yeah, back in the day when I was younger and I had more energy, he did full fledged haunted houses. And what a lot of people don't know is he had a hand in the publication of the Philip Morris book, the
Yeah,
how what is it? How to make a financially successful haunted house.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's the one that most people have. It's no, I know the person that did the illustration for that. That's David Lady out of Ohio, and he's a friend. And then I found out that Jim had a lot to do with it when Phil was looking for material and everything like that. A gentleman named Tim Harkleroad, who wrote another haunted house book in that vein, got to know through haunting. Uh, so it's camaraderie from the different areas, definitely. But
Hmm.
the ones that I've met through contacts, through projects that you've spearheaded, have been very fruitful as far as that goes.
Well, thank you. It makes me feel good to feel like stuff I did went somewhere. I guess the whole point was let's
Mm.
all be creative. Is my big belief that that does help people a lot, and just to have
But
that.
also maybe sit down and watch The Haunting of Hill House and read the book in the same week.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I would take up my favorite films and my favorite things, and I just say this is the topic. And we had that haunting of Hell House and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, those are good. And again, it's what's interesting too. I always find, which people are maybe don't believe. I don't know. The people who I find in the more bizarre, haunting kind of magic world, super friendly, friendliest of the magicians, in my opinion, versus some other groups who will go nameless in the field, who seem to be a little bit more uppity. But I don't know. I've always found anyone in this area was just like wide open, sharing things, saying, yeah, just give me attribution and run with my ideas. It's cool. At least that's what I've found with this kind of like group. I don't know if you
I
found that
think
as
in
well.
general that's very true. I think that
Mm.
we tend to be more open to each other and open to ideas. It's I don't think it's as competitive as some of these things.
Mhm.
It's you know I don't go to conventions to uh, get a trophy in stage or close up magic, so I don't feel like I have to compete on that level.
Yeah.
And most of the people, when I'm going to the gatherings I'm going to now, they're not necessarily there for that. In fact, most of them are not there for that.
Hmm.
You get your people that when for the competitions they're there, and I enjoy sitting back and watching them. But I don't feel I've never felt the need to uh, put myself front and center in the room and be judged like that. Yeah, that's a very intimidating thing. That's a very breaking thing for some people too.
Some people thrive on it, and some people, But one of the things, well, I do ask this the most, well, everyone that comes on this particular uh show. I don't know if it actually applies, but probably it does. I don't know because it does you're doing research and have researchers. I always talk about artificial intelligence, which I'm kind of wary about. I don't mind using it as a servant, maybe as a summary. I don't know if it's affecting your field at all, or maybe it doesn't, but it is affecting a lot of artistic field because of visual art and
I was
writing
very
and so on.
frustrated. Yeah, it was either this Sunday or the Sunday before. No, it was Father's Day. It was the past Sunday, 2 Sundays ago. I happened to catch one of the early episodes of America's Got Talent, and there was a person that got passed through that had a choreographed routine that unfortunately the sound was down, so I don't know what music was playing or what else was going on, but it was robot dogs that she had programmed, and
Mm.
that she was clearly controlling spontaneously as well for the back. And I want to say that that could sort of relate to puppetry, but I do think that there's a line in entertainment, and I am huge Disney fan. I love animatronics. I love what they're doing with projection mapping, all that
Mhm.
fun stuff. And I do feel that that is art. I do feel that those dancing dogs were art.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing that art in competition with people that are trying to express themselves through the more traditional methods, for lack of a better word. I think there's a place for AI. I think there's a place for traditional art, and of all forms. And it concerns me that there is a because we have Meta and we have a couple of other big companies here in Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
Had a friend tell me that he went for a 2 hour interview that he got paid $100 for. That he sat in a room and they encouraged him to sign up for their Wi-Fi. And at the end of the 2 hours, they told him he was expecting someone to come out and greet him and everything like that. It was sold to him as a job interview. Pretty sure they were monitoring him
Hmm.
and that they were doing a motion capture study, because there's a motion capture study going on in Pittsburgh put on by the same people, and the local actors union and the film uh, board and all that are all over them. So every time they put up something about we
Wow.
want people for this motion capture study, that they're getting shut down. So they're trying to bring people in not honest ways,
That's horrible.
and I that concerns me. That concerns me deeply. I've seen people do wonderful things with AI with their own work.
Mhm.
Like, I'm going to take my image and I'm going to turn it into, I'm going to animate it or something like that. And I think that's cool and that's fun. But they're not making their living starting with a blank screen and just saying things into a computer to create an image.
Yeah.
And that worries me. My wife works for a company that outsources a lot of its um, customer facing projects. And she was taken to task last week about not using AI to write emails. And she said, I don't need to. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I learned business English. I'm using my business English. I understand that there are people in this company that do not have a background in business English, but please don't penalize me for using the tools that I know, because you're using a tool that you know.
That tool can sometimes be sketchy because
Yeah. I mean, on that
yeah.
side, I love using not chat GPT, using just general Google AI for quick definitions and stuff like that.
Yeah. And even
Uh,
then you got to look it up too, because
yeah.
sometimes those quick definitions I found are wrong. Yeah, it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
fascinating stuff. It's because it's an interesting thing. But people that again, well, that's a whole other thing. One day I'll do a whole science fiction thing about from the 1960s who predicted all this was coming. And here it is. But yeah, I mean it's interesting times. But the good thing is, at least for now, Castle Blood and things you're doing cannot be replaced by all of that. By that point in time, everyone will be a robot anyways, it all seems. So
But
um
I would go, again, all of that said, I will 100% go through an attraction that is fully done with robotics and electronics and things
right.
like that.
But probably the AI didn't invent the hopefully there was still a human who put it all together to like they use the AI going, I have nothing wrong with like robots and all that. I love all that stuff. It's just that when it actually takes over for the human creativity completely, that's when I get kind of nervous about oops, who's developing it for who and why and what sort of it's just kind of an interesting kind of
Mm-hmm.
dystopian world that might appear. But maybe I read too many science fiction. But no, I love animatronics and I love all that. Because again, in the haunting thing, again, I have my spiders that jump out too for my own Halloween stuff. Very small in comparison, but
Uh-huh.
they will come running around corners and stuff when people come to get their trick or treats. And sometimes it scares them. But yes. Um, so I'm keeping you for an hour, but and this is I'm having a great time and I can probably go on and on and on, but I always have you back as well. But as we've been going through all this, have you had any other thoughts or final things you wanted to add, or our discussion bring up anything like that you wanted to put in?
There was something that you had mentioned about character and about being in character,
Mhm.
and this is something that we call back upon for a number of reasons when we're working with actors, and uh, this actually relates to something with my own character. We have a backstory here, and there's a hierarchy of characters. Quite honestly, even though I've been here for almost 30 years, Professor Scry is very low on the totem pole because Professor Scry is a mortal, not an undead, not a monster. I'm one of the few mortals that's a denizen. So not looked upon very well, character to character, everything like that. There's a lot of um, things that happen at Scry's expense and stuff like that, as far as things that we write in the script. But my favorite thing is that even though Scry acknowledges the existence of the supernatural and is living, among vampires and witches and everything like that, and even has spoken to ghosts, Scry can't see ghosts
Hmm.
because that part of Scry's scientific brain has not allowed him to accept that part. So that's always been an interesting thing that, if you're still a rational scientist, where is your line? So I decided at some point in my backstory it was going to be, well, Scry can't see ghosts, which was fine because we never had ghosts as roaming entities. They were always written into the story. They were always the NPC, for lack of a better word, helping them along.
Mhm.
Um, and then we had someone decide they wanted their guide character to be a ghost. And the first time she walked into the room, because they interact, and she leads her group in, and I look and I say, "This is very unusual for you to be this far in, and to especially come to an area this dangerous with no guide." Scry, I'm right here. I mean, seriously, who would have let someone go unguided? I'm over here. So she kept doing that. And when I went and I did my normal thing, like she wasn't in the room, and it became a bit between the two of us that every time, and I would see her like 3 or 4 times a night in a normal night. She would pick things up from the shelves and
Oh,
walk them across the room and do all kinds of stuff. And I never acknowledged that she was there. And that was one of those things that we never talked about. She and I had never had a conversation. It was like, oh, geez, what am I going to do? I have to act with a character that I don't really believe exists. What am I going to do?
so the art
Okay,
of
I can't
improv,
see her.
the art of improv of the two characters coming together in a
Yeah, and
situation, and then
that's a lot of what happens here. I was thinking about it today. In terms of we get a lot of our influences. Dawn, Ricky's wife, is a um, past champion role player.
oh,
Has won some significant prizes in I'm not sure which specific games. I know Dungeons and Dragons is one of them. I know that she's a game master every Sunday night. Still, that she hosts a big online game, and she's wanted for conventions and stuff like that. We treat this like a big game. This is like playing Clue or the last 20 minutes of a Harry Potter movie. But the key is all that interaction. The difference is, even though in one of those games we would be NPCs, we're the non-player characters. We've been all doing our characters long enough that we have enough in our bank of things to do that it always comes off as spontaneous, and it does not come off as a pre-programmed thing. And it's almost like they're the NPCs because they don't know what's going on, and we're just there having fun. And I think that's the give and take of that is great because I've seen I think a lot about that, especially after watching the Jumanji reboot
oh.
and some other things. I love the Librarians; it's one of my favorite shows. When they did the video game thing, it's like, okay, well, what if the NPCs actually had a little bit more of a say in what was going on? And that's kind of like us.
Yeah,
We're NPCs that got more control over our own fates.
I'm glad you brought that up too, only because, well, not only because, but you know what? Well, maybe you don't know, but part of my thing too is I love role playing games, write role playing games and all that. To me, I see all the overlap between all these different fields. They all kind of tie in together and have similarities. So it makes sense that you'd have an expert role player from like a role playing game be part of your ensemble, because it is just yet another aspect of coolness and skills and viewpoint to kind of bring to bringing things to life, so to speak, and that whole interactivity. And that's the other thing too. Again,
Oh,
is
and the funny about that is
yeah,
Ricky is not a role player.
he
He,
just
he has
wins.
he has never done Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that because he's never been able to wrap his head around sitting down and acting it out. But he was a reenactor uh, for years,
Hmm.
and as a clown and as a performer, he's an interactor. So I think there is a difference between people that get into LARPing
Yep.
and people that are more into the role playing side. I think there's people that like both, but I do think that there are people that will gravitate to one or the other. And the same is true with haunting. We are the people that want to interact, people that are not afraid to talk to somebody eye to eye. Uh, that's a lot of it because you're on the same level of us. We're not popping out from a wall and then disappearing.
Yeah.
That there's definitely a demographic that we have that we reach that other haunts don't. But there's also a difference between people that passively watch movies
Mhm.
than coming here. I think there's two different mindsets there, and it's fun when you
Yeah.
see people when you catch that and try and you have to work with that.
Well, yeah. And my field of simulation, it gets back to this concept of how much stress loading do you want to put in, or fidelity, and like how real do you have to make it to really engage the person. And some people have different comfort levels. They need a certain dose to really get that hit. It's like I can't just do it theater of the mind. I need to have some props, or I need to really go into it because that's what makes me feel engaged versus others different. And that's again is like the whole field of whatever people like. There's room for it, which is cool. So I now this is an excellent discussion of so many different fields that tie into this. And so what are you up to next before we like and where can people get your book? What's your next show?
Okay.
Where can they find you?
So in the next several months, we've got I'm doing a lecture locally, uh, specifically to a musicians group.
Mhm.
In August, I will be at Poe's Magic Conference in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
I will be there most likely just vending and having fun at this point. October will be our next season, and this storyline is part of a continued storyline that we're working on involving three witch sisters. So it's going to be a witch themed and actually focused on familiars. So we'll be focusing a little bit on pet companions as well as what we normally do, and that's always fun because most of the people here are pet owners and pet lovers as well. Um, that's October. December we have will be Christmas, and that would be the first full weekend in December. And then January again, I'm going to be at the East Coast Spirit Sessions, Martin Luther King weekend for the American audience. That weekend, January 19th, I believe, is that Monday. But the weekend going into that is the East Coast Spirit Session. So those are the big things on my calendar right now.
Very cool.
The book is available on Amazon for international people,
Mhm.
or if you just don't want to deal with other hassles, that's totally fine. It's available directly through me, Christopher.Handa at Verizon.net. Uh, it is $50 for a paperback. I'm sorry, $60 for paperback, $70 for hardcover, and $50 for a PDF copy. I do not do anything through Kindle right now, only because I ran out of time and patience to reformat it one more time to make it Kindle reader friendly.
Fair enough.
I don't know if your experience with publishing, how far that's gone, Bruce, but I was in just over my head when I said, "Oh, I'm going to do this all by myself."
Yeah, I've been through that rodeo, and we can always talk about that. If you ever need some thoughts on that, happy to chat.
I will keep that in mind. Yeah, so
Okay.
the book is available through me as well, and uh, you'll be able to get the PayPal and the Venmo and all that information that'll be provided. Uh,
Okay.
so it's available right now. Anything to boost the signal, I would be greatly appreciative of. If anybody out there is watching has any questions or would like to get some more information on the book, I'd be happy to talk to them, correspond with them in any preferred mode of communication, for lack of a better word. Because I am still trying to get some traction with the book.
Okay. And Castle Blood itself, it has its own website.
It is thecastleblood.com,
Hmm.
and you would find information on tickets there as well as what's going on with us in terms of other upcoming events and things like that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chris. I greatly appreciate you sharing all this interesting experiences and insights into this whole interesting field. Most people never get to hear about any of this sort of stuff. So thank you so much again.
Oh, thank you again for the opportunity, Bruce. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome.